The twin suns of Vera shone brightly over the royal city of Orlis. The white towers of the palace stood high above the streets, their crystal walls glowing in the morning light. Princess Leora stood on the palace balcony, her eyes fixed on the distant horizon. She could see the silver line of the great sea, calm for now. But her mind was far from calm. For weeks, the Droken Empire had been moving its fleets closer to Vera's borders. The Drokens were known for their hunger to conquer. They were stronger, more ruthless, and they had numbers that could crush smaller worlds. Leora's people were peaceful. They traded with neighbors, sang songs under the night sky, and worked together to keep harmony. They were not ready for war. But today, something different was about to happen. A small ship from the stars was on its way to the city's main port. The message had come 2 days earlier. A human warrior named Ren wished to meet the royal family. He was not part of any great human fleet. He was alone, traveling in a small but sturdy craft. His words in the message were simple: he wanted to help. The idea of a human ally was strange to Leora. She had heard stories of humans, but they were distant tales. Some said humans were quick and clever. Others said they were unpredictable and dangerous. She did not know which to believe. Her father, King Valor, had agreed to receive the visitor. The king hoped any help, even from one human, might be useful. The royal court was less hopeful. Many whispered that this was a waste of time, and that no single warrior could save Vera. Leora tried to keep her thoughts clear as she walked down the palace steps toward the port. Guards in silver armor followed her, their crystal-tipped spears catching the light. Citizens lined the streets to see the arrival of the alien visitor. Children waved small flags, unsure if this was a celebration or a warning. The ship appeared in the sky like a small silver bird. It descended slowly, its engines humming with a deep and steady sound. Dust swirled around as it landed on the platform. The ramp lowered, and out stepped the human. He was taller than most Varans, with dark hair tied back and a simple set of armor that looked worn but cared for. His eyes moved carefully over everything, studying the crowd and the guards before settling on Leora. He carried no visible weapon in his hands, but a long blade hung on his back. Leora stepped forward. "I am Princess Leora of Vera. You must be Ren." He bowed his head slightly. "I am Ren. I come from a world far from here. I heard your people may need help." His voice was calm, but there was weight in his tone. He looked like someone who had seen battle more than once. The princess tried to keep her own voice steady. "We face a threat from the Droken Empire, but you are only one man. How can you help against such an enemy?" Ren met her gaze. "One man cannot win a war, but one man can change how others fight it. I can train your soldiers. Teach them tactics the Droken will not expect. I can help you prepare before it is too late." The crowd murmured. Some were impressed, others doubtful. Leora glanced at her father, who stood behind her. The king's face was unreadable, but he gave a small nod. "You may stay, Ren. We will see if your words have truth." The human warrior followed Leora and the guards back to the palace. As they walked, Leora noticed that Ren's eyes were always moving. He studied the streets, the watchtowers, even the way the guards held their weapons. He did not look like someone here for show. He looked like someone planning for battle. Inside the palace, the court gathered in the Hall of Stars. The ceiling was painted with the constellations, and light from the sun shone through crystal windows, scattering colors across the floor. An elder advisor spoke first. "Why should we trust this outsider? He does not know our people, our customs, or our ways of war." Ren stepped forward. "If your ways of war could stop the Droken, you would not need me. I am not here to rule, only to help you survive. If you choose to ignore me, I will leave." His direct words caused a stir in the hall. Leora studied him again. He spoke with no fear, even in front of the king. She wondered if this was bravery or stubbornness. The king raised his hand. "Enough. Ren will be given a chance to show his skill. Tomorrow he will visit the training grounds with our guards. If he can improve their readiness, he will remain." As an advisor, Ren bowed slightly. "I will be ready." That evening, Leora walked alone in the palace gardens. The crystal flowers glowed softly under the fading light. She thought about the human. His presence unsettled her, but there was also something steady about him. She could not read his heart yet, but she sensed he had no reason to lie. The next day came quickly. Leora went to the training grounds where the palace guards were gathered. Ren stood in the center, looking at the soldiers lined up in rows. "Your armor is fine," he said, "but you move too slowly. The Droken will not give you time to form perfect lines. You must be ready to strike and move." He showed them how to shift their footing, how to strike at weak points, and how to use the ground to their advantage. The guards were surprised by his speed. Leora watched closely. His movements were sharp and efficient, nothing wasted. The guards began to follow his lead, moving faster and reacting quicker. But training was cut short when a shout came from the watchtower. A Droken scout ship had been spotted near the city's edge. Ren turned to Leora. "Show me the way." Without waiting, he ran toward the city gates, and Leora followed with the guards. They reached the outer wall just as the scout ship landed outside. 3 Droken soldiers stepped out, armed and scanning the area. Before the guards could move, Ren signaled for them to hold. He crouched low, moving through cover, and came up behind the Drokens in a swift motion. He disarmed one and pushed the others back toward their ship. The Drokens retreated, not ready for a fight. The city was safe, for now. Leora stood beside Ren as the scout ship fled into the sky. She felt a strange mix of relief and surprise. "You acted fast. Without you, they might have entered the city." Ren looked at her calmly. "That is why I am here. The Droken will come again, and next time they will not send scouts. We must be ready." Leora nodded, feeling for the first time that maybe this human warrior was more than just a stranger. The sun was high over Orlis when the Royal Council gathered again. The air in the Hall of Stars felt heavy. Word of the Droken scout had spread quickly through the city. Merchants whispered in the market. Families locked their doors early. Fear was growing like a shadow. King Valor sat on his throne, his face pale. Princess Leora stood beside him, her hands clasped in front of her. Across the hall stood Ren, the human warrior, calm and silent as the council members spoke over one another. "This is proof the Droken are testing our defenses," said one elder. "We should prepare to move the people to the inner valleys. Moving will only show weakness," another replied. "We must send a message that Vera will not bow." An advisor with a long silver cloak turned toward the king. "Your Majesty, the human's actions yesterday were skillful, but he is only one man. We cannot rely on him to defend an entire world." Ren stepped forward. "I agree. I cannot fight this war alone, but I can make your soldiers ready for it." His voice was calm but strong. "I have fought enemies who moved faster and struck harder than the Droken. I have lived through battles where the ground burned and the sky turned black. I can show you how to survive." A murmur moved through the council. Some listened with interest, others with doubt. The king raised a hand. "Ren, you have shown courage. But if you are to train our soldiers, Princess Leora will oversee your work. She will judge if your methods are worth keeping." Leora was caught off guard. She glanced at her father, but his eyes were firm. The decision was made. "Yes, father," she said quietly. That afternoon, Leora walked with Ren through the palace gates toward the training grounds. The streets were quieter than usual. People watched from windows as they passed. "You do not seem pleased to be my overseer," Ren said as they walked. "It is not about being pleased," Leora replied. "I do not know you. My people's lives will depend on what you teach. I have to be sure it will work." "That is fair," Ren said. "But you should know something. I'm not here to impress anyone. I am here to win." At the training grounds, the palace guards stood into lines, waiting. Ren studied them, his eyes sharp. "You are brave," he told the guards, "but bravery is not enough. The Droken will not fight you in a way you expect. They will come fast, hit hard, and vanish before you strike back. You must learn to think and move faster." The next hours were filled with drills unlike any the guards had seen. Ren had them break their perfect lines and spread out. He showed them how to use cover, how to strike from unexpected angles. and how to keep moving so the enemy could not trap them. Leora watched carefully. At first, she disliked the chaos. Varen soldiers valued discipline, order, and precision. But slowly, she saw the guards becoming sharper, their reactions quicker. When the drills ended, the soldiers were tired but alert. Some even smiled, surprised at their own improvement. You see, Ren said quietly to Leora, order has its place, but too much order becomes a cage in battle. You need to be able to break the pattern. Before Leora could reply, a horn sounded from the city walls. A guard ran up the path toward them, breathless. Your Highness, a Droken patrol has been sighted in the northern hills, the guard said. They are too close to our farms. Ren's eyes narrowed. How many? 5 soldiers, the guard answered. Send word to the king, Leora said at once. She turned to Ren. This is not a full attack. What would you do? I would go to them before they reached the farms. Ren said, if we wait, they will burn the crops and vanish. We must strike first. Leora hesitated. Leaving the safety of the city was dangerous. But if the Droken destroyed the farmland, it would hurt their people more than any small battle. Very well, she said. I will come with you. Within minutes, a small group of guards rode with them toward the northern hills. The air grew cooler as they left the city, and the land rolled out into green fields and small stone houses. They spotted the Droken patrol near the edge of a farm. The soldiers were tall, their dark armor marked with jagged patterns. One of them carried a torch, ready to set the crops on fire. Ren raised his hand for silence. He pointed toward a small ridge on the left. We will circle behind them. Stay low. The group moved quickly and quietly, using the ridge for cover. At Ren's signal, they charged down the slope. The Droken were caught off guard. Leora stayed behind the guards at first, giving orders to block the enemy's escape. Ren moved like a shadow, striking with precision. The Droken fell before they could react. The others tried to retreat, but the guards cut them off. The fight was over in less than a minute. The Droken survivors fled toward the hills, leaving their torch behind. The crops were safe. As they returned to the city, Leora felt a strange mix of relief and unease. She had seen Ren fight before, but this was different. He had not only defeated the enemy, he had predicted exactly how they would act. Back in the palace, the council gathered again to hear the report. Some were impressed by the quick victory. Others still doubted. This was only a small patrol. One advisor said, the real attack will be much greater. Then we have more work to do, Ren said simply. That night, Leora found herself walking the palace gardens again. She heard footsteps behind her and turned to see Ren. You did well today, he said. Your orders to block their escape made the fight easier. I only did what seemed right, she replied. Ren shook his head. It was more than that. You thought ahead. That is the key to winning. Leora looked at him for a long moment. You are still a stranger to me, Ren. But I am beginning to understand why my father allowed you to stay. Ren gave a small smile. That is enough for now. The night air was cool, and the stars shone brightly above the crystal towers. The Droken had been pushed back again. But Leora knew this peace would not last. The real test was still to come. The morning in Orlis began with a soft golden light spilling over the palace walls. The city looked peaceful, yet every mind inside the palace carried the weight of war. Princess Leora walked into the training grounds once again, where the sound of wooden practice weapons striking echoed in the air. Ren was already there, moving between the rows of soldiers. He corrected their stances, showed them how to shift their weight, and reminded them to keep their eyes on more than one target at a time. His training was strict but fair. Leora stood at the edge, watching. She had spent the days now observing the human warrior. At first, she thought his methods were too unrefined for Varen soldiers. They valued beauty and movement, harmony in their formations. But now she saw something she had not noticed before. His methods gave the soldiers a sharper edge. They were faster, more alert, and their confidence was growing. When the drills ended, Ren approached her, wiping sweat from his brow. You look less doubtful than before, he said with a hint of a smile. I have seen improvement, Leora admitted, but skill in battle is not all that matters. My people fight to protect, not to destroy. I understand, Ren replied. Where I come from, we fight for survival. But even in war, survival is not only about killing the enemy, it is about protecting what matters most. His words caught her attention. What matters most to you? She asked. Ren's gaze drifted toward the far hills for a moment before. He answered, Once, I fought to protect my own world. I lost more than I can count. Now, I fight to make sure others do not lose what I lost. There was no need for Leora to ask more. She could feel the truth in his voice. Later that day, Ren asked to see more of Vera beyond the palace walls. Leora agreed, though she insisted on bringing to guards. They walked through the city streets, where merchants called out their goods: bright fabrics, crystal ornaments, and sweet-smelling bread. Children peeked from behind stalls to watch the tall human walk by. You have a beautiful city, Ren said as they crossed a bridge over a canal of clear blue water. It has stood for many generations, Leora said proudly. The towers are built from crystal stone found in our mountains. They shine under both suns. Ren studied the buildings, then the people. Your city feels open on my world. During times of danger, we would build walls high and close. Walls keep people out, Leora said, but they can also keep people trapped inside. We believe open spaces bring peace to the heart. Ren did not argue, but Leora saw his eyes scanning the rooftops and alleys. Even here, he was thinking of defense. In the afternoon, they visited the Crystal Gardens. It was a place of quiet beauty, with flowers that glowed softly in the sunlight and gentle streams winding through the paths. Leora knelt beside a bed of silver petal blooms. These flowers grow only in Vera's soil, she said. They take years to bloom. Many believe they carry the memory of the land. Ren crouched beside her. If I ever doubted why you wanted to protect this world, I don't now. They spoke for a while about their worlds. Ren told her of Earth's vast oceans and forests, of cities filled with tall steel towers. Leora shared stories of Varen, traditions, night festivals under starlight, music played on crystal flutes, and the ancient songs of her people. When they returned to the palace, the calm was broken. A messenger ran into the courtyard. Breathless, Your Highness, he said to Leora, the Droken fleet has been seen near the outer moons. They are gathering forces. Leora's heart tightened. How many ships? Too many for a single defense line to hold, the messenger replied. Ren's voice was steady. They are testing you. They want to see how fast you prepare. They will not attack yet, but they want you to believe they could. The royal council met that evening. Some argued to begin moving the people into the inner valleys, away from the coast. Others wanted to strengthen the main city defenses. King Valor listened in silence before looking to Ren. What would you do? I would use the land, Ren said. The Droken are used to fighting in open space or flat ground. Your valleys and ridges can be turned into traps. Force them to fight where their numbers mean less. Several council members frowned. It is too risky, one said. If it fails, the enemy will be inside our heartlands. Leora spoke before her father could answer. Every choice is risky now. If the Droken attack our city directly, even the strongest walls may fall. We must think in ways they will not expect. The king studied his daughter for a long moment. Very well. Begin the preparations. Ren, you will work with our generals. Leora, you will oversee the planning. After the meeting, Leora and Ren walked together in the torch-lit halls. You spoke for me in there, Ren said. I spoke for what I believed was right, Leora replied. If I am to lead, I must make choices that protect my people, even if they do not please everyone. Ren gave a short nod. Leadership is not about pleasing. It is about doing what must be done. In the days that followed, they worked side by side. Ren showed the generals how to position hidden defense lines in the valley north of the city. He taught the soldiers to move silently in small units, using the terrain to hide until the right moment. Leora surprised herself by giving direct orders to the troops, something she had never done before. At first, the soldiers looked unsure, but her clear voice and steady eyes won their respect. Each evening, she and Ren would meet in the strategy room to review maps and reports. Over time, she began to notice small changes in herself. She was no longer only the princess who stood behind her father. She was becoming someone who could stand on her own. But as the work continued, scouts brought worrying news the Droken forces were moving faster than expected. The shadow of war was drawing closer, and soon there would be no time left for preparation. The twin suns were just beginning to set when the first Droken message arrived. The sky was painted with shades of gold and red, but the words carried by the royal messenger turned the colors cold in Leora's eyes. The Droken commander's voice came through a small crystal device. It was deep and sharp, every word meant to strike fear. Vera has one chance: surrender your lands, your ports, and your crystal mines, and we will let your people live. Refuse, and we will bring fire to your cities. The message ended. Silence filled the royal council chamber. King Valar's health had worsened in recent days. He sat on his throne, breathing slowly, his face pale. Leora stood beside him. Feeling the eyes of the entire council on her, one elder broke the silence. We cannot fight them. Their fleets are too many. If we surrender now, we save lives. Another shook his head. If we surrender, we will be nothing more than slaves in our own home. The Drokens will take all we have. Leora felt her father's hand touch hers. His voice was weak, but steady. You must decide. My daughter. She looked to Rin, who stood near the edge of the chamber, his arms crossed. He did not speak until she met his gaze. The Droken expect you to be afraid. That is why they send messages instead of armies. If you bend now, they will own you forever. If you fight, you must fight in a way they do not expect. The council turned toward him. What would you suggest, human? One advisor asked. Rin stepped forward. The valley north of the city is narrow and deep. The Droken cannot use their numbers there. If we prepare traps and hidden defenses, we can break their first attack and make them think twice. Several advisors muttered their doubts. If the traps fail, the enemy will reach the city gates. One said. Rin's voice was calm. If we do nothing, they will reach your gates anyway. Leora took a deep breath. She felt the weight of her father's trust and the hopes of her people pressing down on her. We will follow this plan, she said firmly. Begin preparing the valley at once. That night, the city did not sleep. Soldiers marched north with supplies. Engineers placed crystal charges along the cliffs, ready to shatter the rocks and block the path. Archers set up hidden positions among the ridges. Leora walked with Rin through the preparations. The air was cool, carrying the scent of mountain soil. Torches lit the work as the night deepened. You have done this before, Leora said quietly. Too many times, Rin replied, but every battle is different. You must make the enemy believe they are winning before you take it from them. They stopped at a ridge where the valley narrowed. Below, workers were digging shallow pits and covering them with branches. These will break their advance, Rin explained, when their lines stumble. Your archers will strike. Leora watched the soldiers working. They moved quickly, but she could see the worry in their faces. They are afraid, she said. They would be fools not to be, Rin answered. But fear is not the enemy. It can sharpen the mind, make a person faster. The danger is when fear takes control. By morning, most of the preparations were in place. Leora returned to the palace to report to the council. She was met by more doubts. We should still send an answer to the Droken. One elder insisted. Tell them we will surrender the ports, but keep the city. Leora stood tall. We are not giving them anything. They will take what they want, unless we make them pay for every step. Her firm tone silenced the room. That afternoon, the Droken sent another message. This time, their voice carried anger. You have chosen defiance. Tomorrow, we come for you. There will be no mercy. The words spread through the city. Merchants closed their stalls early. Families gathered in their homes. Some prayed to the old gods. Others sharpened whatever weapons they could find. As the suns dipped behind the hills, Leora stood on the palace balcony. Rin joined her, carrying 2 cups of warm spiced tea. They will come tomorrow, she said softly. Yes, he replied. And tomorrow, they will learn that Vera is not as weak as they think. She glanced at him. And if we fail, then we fight until we cannot. he said simply. But I do not believe we will fail. The night passed in tense quiet. At dawn, scouts reported movement in the north. Dust rose above the valley as the Droken army approached. Their dark armor glinted in the morning light, and the ground seemed to tremble beneath their march. Lior rode out with Rin and the soldiers to the prepared positions. The valley stretched before them, narrow and shadowed by high cliffs. Archers waited in silence above, hidden by the rocks. The traps lay ready. The Droken commander rode at the front, his banner snapping in the wind. His voice boomed across the valley. This is your last chance to surrender. Lior stepped forward, her voice clear. This is Vera. We do not surrender. A roar rose from the Droken ranks as they advanced. Rin gave the signal. The first line of Droken soldiers stepped into the pits, stumbling and breaking formation. Arrows rained down from the cliffs. Crystal charges shattered the rock walls, sending boulders crashing into the valley floor. The Droken advance slowed, then broke apart. Their commander shouted for them to regroup, but the narrow path trapped them. Liora felt her heart race as she saw the enemy falter. It's working, she whispered. Rin's eyes never left the battle. This is only the beginning. They will pull back, but they will come again. We must be ready for the second strike. And as the Droken retreat began, Liora knew he was right. The shadow over Vera had not lifted, it had only grown darker. The sky above the camp was quiet, but inside the council tent, the air was heavy with tension. Aaron stood in the center, his hands resting on the table. Around him were leaders from both the human and alien sides. Some looked at him with trust, others with doubt. Princess Liora sat beside him, her gaze steady, but her heart troubled. She could feel the pressure building. The scouts had returned with urgent news. A massive enemy force was gathering near the mountains. If they moved quickly, they could strike before Arn's alliance was ready. This was the moment the enemy had been waiting for, and it was also the moment that could destroy everything the princess and Aaron had worked for. We must strike now, one of the alien commanders said firmly. His voice was sharp, his hand tapping the table. If we wait, they will crush us. No. A human captain replied, shaking his head. We will lose too many if we rush. We need to be smart. The council was divided. Aaron listened to each voice, his mind working fast. He knew that a wrong move would lead to disaster. Princess Liora could see the weight on his shoulders. She wanted to speak, but she also knew that her people would not listen unless Aaron earned their trust fully. Finally, Aaron raised his hand, and the council fell silent. His voice was calm but strong. We fight for survival, but we also fight for the chance to live together after this war. If we attack without thinking, we lose both. We need a plan that protects our people and destroys the enemy's will too. Fight! Some of the leaders looked at him with doubt, but others began to nod slowly. Liora spoke then, her voice clear. I have known fear since this war began, but I have also learned something new. Unity is stronger than fear. Aaron is right. We must fight as one, not as the sides who happen to face the same enemy. The words settled over the room. Even those who had doubted began to think differently. Aaron then unfolded his plan. The humans would lead a diversionary force into the forest, drawing the enemy toward a false position. Meanwhile, alien warriors would use their knowledge of the mountain paths to cut off the enemy from behind. It was dangerous, but it gave them a chance to trap the enemy without losing too many lives. By the time the meeting ended, the council had agreed. Preparations began at once. Warriors gathered weapons, messengers ran from tent to tent, and scouts moved out into the dark to watch enemy movement. Aaron walked beside Liora as they left the tent. Are you sure this will work? She asked quietly. No, he said honestly, but I believe it is our best chance. That night, the camp was alive with quiet determination. Humans and aliens worked side by side, sharpening blades, setting traps, and preparing for the dawn. The princess moved among them, speaking words of encouragement. Aaron stayed focused, checking every part of the plan. Before sunrise, the operation began. The human diversion force moved silently into the forest, while alien units climbed the narrow mountain trails. Aaron led the main group that would block the enemy escape. The air was cold, and the sound of boots and claws on stone echoed in the dark. When the enemy finally moved, their numbers were larger than expected, but they took the bait. They chased the human force deep into the forest, never seeing the alien. Warriors moving into position above them, Aaron waited for the signal, his heart steady. Then it came, a bird's call, sharp and quick. The alien warriors descended from the mountain, cutting off the enemy's rear. Aaron's group charged from the front. The enemy was trapped, their lines breaking under the sudden attack from both sides. The battle was fierce but short. Without room to move, the enemy began to fall back. Aaron's plan had worked. By the time the sun rose, the Alliance had won its most important victory yet. The camp erupted in relief and cheers. For the first time, humans and aliens celebrated together. But as the noise faded, Aaron and Leora exchanged a look. They knew the war was not yet over. The enemy would not stop after one defeat. Still, this day had changed something. Trust was growing. The Alliance had a real chance now. And in that moment, under the new light of dawn, the princess felt something she had not felt in a long time: hope. The warning sirens of the capital city echoed through the tall silver towers. Bright lights flashed in the night sky as enemy ships began to descend from the clouds. The air smelled of smoke and hot metal. People rushed through the streets, trying to reach the underground shelters. Amen and Princess Leora stood on the high balcony of the palace, looking at the chaos. The sky was full of glowing streaks as the city's defense cannons fired at the invaders. The alien fleet had come faster than expected. We cannot let them land near the central tower, Leora said, her voice steady but her eyes tense. If they take the tower, they will control the city's shield. Amen looked at the approaching ships. Then we stop them before they land, he replied. His armor reflected the burning lights from the sky. He turned to the guards. Prepare the air teams. I will lead the front line. Leora wanted to argue, but she saw the determination in his eyes. He was not one of her people, yet he fought. As if this world was his home, she felt a quiet respect for him. Moments later, Amen boarded a small battle craft with a team of skilled pilots. The ship roared into the air, engines glowing blue. They shot through the clouds toward the enemy fleet from the cockpit. Amen could see the massive enemy mothership in the distance. It was black and shaped like a giant claw, with smaller attack ships swarming around it. The enemy fired streams of energy, but Amen's craft rolled and spun through the air, avoiding the blasts. Focus on the transport ships, Amen commanded through the comms. If they land, the city will fall. The battle became a storm of light and fire. Amen's ship weaved between enemy fighters, blasting them out of the sky. Two of the palace guards flew beside him, covering his flanks. Explosions shook the air as enemy ships fell toward the ocean below. Meanwhile, Leora was in the control room of the palace. She spoke quickly to the defense commanders, directing the shield systems and ground units. Her hands moved across glowing control panels. Every second mattered. A sudden voice came through the comms. Enemy boarding craft heading for the shield tower. They have heavy armor. Amen's eyes narrowed. I'm on it. He pushed the throttle forward, and his ship dived through the enemy fire. He landed on the roof of the shield tower just as the boarding craft slammed down nearby. The enemy soldiers poured out, tall and dark-armored, their weapons glowing red. Amen leaped from his ship and charged into the fight. His blade clashed against enemy weapons, sparks flying. One soldier swung at him, but Amen blocked and countered, sending the enemy to the ground. Another tried to flank him, but Amen's quick movement ended the threat. The air was filled with shouts and the hum of energy blades. Back in the control room, Leora watched the shield readings. The tower was taking damage. She contacted Amen. You must hold them. If the shield falls, the city is lost. I will hold it, Amen replied, his voice calm despite the noise of battle around him. The fight was fierce. Enemy reinforcements arrived, but Amen stood his ground. His armor scorched and his breathing heavy. Finally, the sound of engines filled the sky as the city's own fighters arrived to support him. The remaining enemies retreated toward their ships. The battle above the capital began to quiet. Amon looked up and saw the enemy fleet pulling back into the clouds. The shield tower still stood, glowing faintly in the night. In the palace, Leora let out a breath she had been holding. "You did it," she whispered to herself. When Amon returned, his armor was scratched, but his eyes were sharp. "It's not over," he said to Leora. "They will come back." "Yes," Leora replied. "But now they know we will not bow to them." The two stood together, watching the night sky, knowing the final battle was still ahead. The morning sun rose over the city, casting golden light on the rebuilt towers. The war had ended. The streets were once again filled with laughter, the air no longer heavy with fear. The people of the city were free, and for the first time in years, hope was stronger than worry in the main square. A crowd gathered to witness the peace ceremony. Banners of different colors waved in the wind, showing the unity of all the races that had once been enemies. Children ran between the legs of guards, their joy a sign of the new future. The alien princess stood at the center, her head high, her heart calm. Beside her was the human warrior. Standing tall and watchful, leaders of many worlds had come. They spoke of peace, trade, and friendship. No one forgot the battles or the sacrifices, but now there was a promise to protect life, instead of destroying it. The princess spoke to the crowd. Her voice carried over the square, strong and steady. She thanked the people for their courage. She thanked the soldiers who had fought. And she thanked one man above all others, the human warrior who had never left her. Sith warrior listened quietly, his eyes scanning the crowd. He was not one for speeches, but he understood her words. The war had brought them together, and now peace would keep them bound by loyalty and trust. When the princess finished speaking, she turned to him and smiled. It was not the smile of a ruler to a guard, but the smile of a friend to another friend who had shared the hardest road. After the speeches, there was music. The sounds of drums and flutes filled the air. People danced in the streets. The warrior walked through the crowd, shaking hands with soldiers from other worlds. He felt the weight of the past lifting from his shoulders. For so long, his life had been about survival. Now, it was about building something better. In the evening, the princess invited him to the palace balcony. From there, they could see the lights of the city glowing against the dark sky. She spoke softly, telling him that the future would not be perfect, but it would be worth fighting for. He agreed. Both of them had seen how fragile peace could be, and they promised to guard it together. The warrior looked out over the city and thought of the people who would grow up never knowing the fear he had seen. That was the real victory. Not the battles, not the medals, but the chance for a child to live without the shadow of war. The princess stood beside him, her long robe moving gently in the night breeze. Neither spoke for a while. There was no need for words. The silence between them was filled with understanding. For beyond the city, the stars shone brightly. Somewhere out there, new challenges would come. But for now, the world was safe. The human warrior had kept his promise, and the alien princess had found the strength to lead her people into a brighter tomorrow. Together, they had proven that unity between worlds was not just a dream. As the night deepened, they returned to the hall where leaders and citizens celebrated together. The warrior stayed near the princess, not because she needed protection, but because she was his friend. And in this new age of peace, friendship was the strongest shield. Of all bells of the city rang, marking the start of a new year. The people cheered, and the warrior smiled. For the first time in a long time, he allowed himself to believe in a future without war. The alien princess met his eyes, and in that moment, both knew their journey was far from over, but the path ahead would be walked in peace.